connection, Yuri. Rowan with you, Rowan Hand reaching out to you across the planet. In studio with me now, Davy Beck. He's the chief of the PSNI in this area. You're welcome as always.
Good morning, Rowan.
How are you?
Grand. It's good to be here with you again.
Well, it is because it's about communication, it's about telling people, it's about encouraging people. It's about, ultimately, the protection of life and property.
Absolutely.
Property secondary to the protection of life, I would have thought. But nevertheless, I think they stand together as part and parcel of your mission, the protection of life and property.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And the mission, quite simply, is about keeping people safe. And I'm conscious that we have been on your programme many times throughout the year.
Thanks be to goodness.
And we have delivered many of those messages about trying to keep people safe, and many appeals for help and assistance. But I think today the primary message I want to get across is one, thanking the people in Newry and Mourne.
What would you be thanking them for?
Well, I think Christmas time is always a period that quite often we can pause and reflect on the year that has been, and I think that's a good thing that we all pause and reflect. And certainly when I reflect on the year past, I think it's important that I thank the people of Newry and Mourne for the help and assistance they've gave to policing in this area. And the help and assistance that they have given to me and my officers as we try to keep people safe in Newry and Mourne. Clearly, we do not police in isolation, and it's often said that policing is too important to be left to the police themselves.
I can understand this.
And it works best when there is that level of cooperation and assistance and partnership working with communities, with schools, with businesses, with individuals across the community here. And I'm pleased to say that when I reflect on the year that's passed, I can see that cooperation is developing, it's growing, and it's having a positive impact on what we can do to keep people safe in Newry and Mourne.
And it's also having an impact in the sense, I'm just noticing your phone blinking there, I hope it's okay, but it's if you think of the challenges that we face, Newry and Mourne Council has teamed up with you, if you like, in the Community Safety Partnership, and you're doing things throughout the community, which you're advising on, you're encouraging, you're in part delivering, because it's as you say, it's a community thing.
It is. It's about policing with the community, and it's about the community working with police. And when we have that simple cooperation, partnership, engagement, and when those are meaningful in terms of addressing issues that impact on the quality of life for people in Newry and Mourne, well then people can see that works, and it is working. You know, crime right across Newry and Mourne this year is down. There's about in the region of 200 fewer victims of crime this year than there was last year. Yeah. And our detection rate, our clearance rate for crime is amongst the highest across Northern Ireland. So clearly for me that indicates that policing with the community here in this area is working. But it starts, as you say, with that cooperation at the Policing and Community Safety Partnership, but right down through all communities, community groups, school groups, businesses, and individual members of the community that feel empowered to be able to talk to officers. We have, as you probably saw, we announced our 100th Neighbourhood Watch scheme.
Well, yes, you did. I talked to Siobhan about it.
Yeah, and what a milestone, you know, that's over 100 now.
100 families with eyes, keeping an eye on their neighbours.
And it's as simple as that. It's people talking, it's people communicating, it's people working in partnership with communities themselves and with us and the other agencies that are out there.
Davy, talk to me about something that I know is very close to your heart, the older community, and I have a vested interest now that I'm 71, although I feel 25.
Absolutely.
But it's the Commissioner for Older People was saying a week ago, 2 weeks ago now maybe, that the detection rates and the making amenable of those guilty of involving themselves in the terrorism of going into an old person's home to rob that person, that needs to improve. Is that an area that you're aware of and dealing with?
Absolutely, and it's an area that we have already identified within the local policing plan for Newry and Mourne. One of our targets this year was to continue to report on a monthly basis to the PCSP on the number of burglaries and robberies where older people are the victims. So that's me being open and upfront in terms of the level of crime against older people. And I'm pleased to say that whilst it's an issue and a problem, certainly those levels of crimes committed in this area against older people has fallen over the last number of years.
Yes.
And it's important to get that message across because it's about ensuring that people can feel safe.
We don't want them cowering in their homes.
No, absolutely not. But it's also about trying to work with all those other partner agencies to try and deliver a better service to those vulnerable people within our community. And we can do that in a number of ways with community watch, with neighbourhood watch schemes, working with the Good Neighbour schemes, the Good Morning schemes. All that sort of work is ongoing in this area to try and decrease the fear of crime, but also to address and to try and make an impact on those who would do harm to people in communities. So we need to, as a community, work together, and that's the sort of area that I'm pleased to say that there has been increased cooperation. That's where neighbourhood watch schemes play a vital role.
Because the best cop in this scenario is the neighbour. Knock, 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 knock. How are you today? Hello.
Absolutely.
And, you know, can I get you anything at the shop or whatever?
And it's also about making our older people more wary in terms of who they let into the house, because quite often, you know, people will leave doors open, people will be engaging, will welcome people into their homes, and we have to encourage people to take simple steps to keep themselves safe. Lock and secure your property, absolutely. And we have seen an increase locally over this last few months in respect of burglaries. And you know, the message has to be in terms of locking, securing your property and looking out for your friends and your neighbours.
Are you still in a position to visit the homes of the vulnerable and to give them one-to-one advice?
Well, certainly we endeavour to do that as much as possible, and again we'll work with
if somebody phones you, say somebody phones you 101 and says, look, I'm 92, I'm 82, I'm worried, and can you help me? I've seen the thing in the paper and I'm worried about my house. Is there somebody who could call and give me a wee bit of advice?
Absolutely, we will. And again, if people are concerned about neighbours, certainly feed that through to us, and we will go and check on those people. And quite a lot of our calls are those sort of welfare type checks that people either haven't seen a neighbour for a few days, or are a bit concerned about a neighbour, or have seen someone acting suspiciously around a neighbour's home, and we will respond to those calls, and we will go and check that people are okay.
Have the icy fingers, Davy, of cuts begun to claw their way up the brick wall of Ardmore yet?
Well, yes, clearly we're all facing cuts, and we have this current year, you know, we had in the region £50 million wiped off our budget effectively overnight, and that is having an impact, but we're trying to ensure that we continue to have officers on the front line that are still delivering in terms of the quality of service that the people quite rightly expect. So we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. We're certainly clearing a lot of those sort of savings, or making a lot of those savings behind the scenes.
Good management.
Well,
not that you were never a bad manager, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, you know, when time gets tough, you cut your cloth to fit, and that's what you're doing.
But certainly, you know, it's clear that as we move forward, we're going to have challenging times. And in the next year's budget, again, there are going to be more implications. And ultimately, the number of officers available in the front line will decrease. So that's where work and cooperation with communities is actually more vital than ever. That all those things that we have put in place in terms of partnership working, all those engagement processes that we have been involved in, that we now see the fruits of those labours, and we work closer with communities. We may not necessarily have the same number of police officers, but we can still work with communities to ensure that we keep people safe.
Davy, I have to admit to you, I hope you won't arrest me, having been responsible for a major security alert last Saturday night at Newry railway station.
What did you do?
What did I do? I'm coming back from Dublin on the train, and I have this large red suitcase that I take. People are mad. Are you going away on your holidays? No, you're going to Dublin for the day. It's the case that carries my coats to the homeless people. So I'm coming home very, very tired, and I wheel the case down to my car, leave it there to put into the car, get into the car and drive off without it. So the thought, this strikes me when I get to Warren Point. So I said, there's only one thing to do here. Ring the police. And I did. 101. Got through. Told the fellow what happened, blah, blah. Described the suitcase, blah, blah, blah. I said, it is not a bomb. No bomb here, I say. And he said, oh, thank you very much for telling us. And I couldn't get the railway station because it's different. But he got them through the transport control. And he did that. And he then rang me back to say, look, thank you very much indeed. That's been dealt with. It's okay. And I said, would you let them know I'll call for it in the morning? And he did that. So that was 101, working at its absolute best, and that was it. So if you've done something stupid like that, don't leave it and hope it goes away, because it will probably end up with an alarm.
Well,
make the phone call.
We all do those things, and as you say, simply report it in, or if you do see that red suitcase, don't assume it's something innocuous. Report it in,
report.
And I think those are the key messages as we move into the Christmas week, and it is about keeping people safe, and we've talked about locking and securing your property, which is key to it.
Yes.
But also in terms of the threat from terrorism that still remains, and it's something at this time of year we have to be vigilant. We have to encourage people
we were hit last Christmas a little bit in Belfast and things like that, but I think it's now a question of vigilance, because
very much so,
the intelligence that was issued during the week was that there are bad people out there, and you're ongoingly making arrests in that area. There is a consequence of those arrests appearing in Uri court today. There is an accused person in court. It'll not be a good Christmas for him, but in any event, your vigilance is paying off and keeping us all safe.
And, we continue to devote resources to keeping people safe in that way. But what concerns me is that threat is still there, and certainly what we don't want to see is our young people getting caught up in that. There's an opportunity for communities to move on, and the majority of communities have moved on, and we will continue to deal with those who still present a danger, because ultimately it will be the community here in Uri and Mourne that suffer from the actions of these people, whether that's directly through people being hurt, injured or worse, or whether that's through the loss of investment and confidence and those issues. So it's important again that we work together, and where people have suspicions or concerns, please report those to us, and we will take action to try and keep people safe.
My dear friend, the former president, Mary McAleese, and I greet you this morning, Mary, if you're out there, you're taking up new duties in academia, and we wish you well with that. But she was delivering a lecture, a commemorative lecture of World War I, and she was getting into that truce at Christmas, where the German lads and the British lads came out together and sung Silent Night, Stille Nacht, played football together, and then went back into the trenches to fight. And as she was saying, and we all say amen to it, none of us want to go back into the trenches. And it's that business of hopefulness that the bad people who are out there who would take us back into the trenches will be dealt with and will be removed from our community. That's the hope, and that's the thing you guys are doing.
Yes.
Do you like to end with a bit of a Christmas message to the folk?
Absolutely, and it would be remiss of me if I didn't remind people not to drink and drive at this time. Again, the key message is please don't drink and drive. And only last weekend we saw my officers having to make arrests in this area again for drink driving. One of those arrested was 3 times over the limit. So please, I would appeal to your listeners and to your audience to please do not drink and drive, and take that extra bit of care on the roads. We don't want to see any tragedies over the road, and I would really want to take this opportunity to wish your audience a very Merry Christmas and a happy and peaceful New Year as we move into 2015, Ron.
We'll work with you again next year, sir.
Thank you very much.
Go well. God bless you.
Destination Uri.